Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays Hyper Rogue. We had a pretty long and involved episode last time, and there was actually another really long and involved episode that I decided was not up to my standards, and I cut it. So that is more or less the reason why there hasn't been as much Hyper Rogue recently. I want to change that. One of the main things that I learned from this last episode that I did is that I really need to start planning these out because they're getting very long, and I was taking breaks like 5 minutes before the end, and so there was not really as much of an arc to these episodes as I knew that there could be. So I really want to kind of refresh this series, and this is a very difficult game to cover, as I've mentioned in the past. And so I want to really make sure that I am doing my best to give it what it deserves and make it interesting for you. And now, one of the things that I've been thinking about is sort of what it is that I want people to get from this channel, because I think I want to be an entertainer, but I'm not really certain what entertainment is, and so I've really been trying to figure out what it is that people find entertaining and what it is that I can give to people, because I sort of set out with this idea that I could just decide that something was entertainment and give that to people and people would be happy. And I'm realizing that that's not enough, that, as I like to say, Dunning-Kruger is a hell of a drug. And I need to sort of understand what it is that I'm doing if I want to really do the best that I can. Now, having this sandworm after me is a little bit frightening, and having another one coming after me is not very encouraging. So I want to get into the jungle, and I was having a difficult time finding a way in. And now that we've made it in, I don't feel especially safe. This is one of the areas that I think of as run killers, where things can go very bad very quickly, and it's difficult to get gems. But I don't want to go into the living caves yet, and hopefully the reason why I want to will become clear by the end of this episode. But there is a concrete reason why I do not want to go into the living cave right now. So for now, the jungle is our option for getting to the 30 gem mark. And we could get lots of spice because that worm is now trapped, but we're not going to because we don't need any more spice. And I'm really trying to keep my numbers down to 10 of each, because that's what we need for the end game, and it's what we need to unlock stuff. And getting more of it just causes the game to get much more difficult much faster and makes it much less likely that I will make it into the end game. So I'm trying to pay attention to that as much as I can. And that was almost bad, but I'm doing okay. Alright, this will be 9, and then this will be 10, and now we just need to find our way out of here. And so that's going to be the next thing on my mind. So, the future of this series. I want to plan these episodes out. I want to plan out when I'm going to split them up. I'm going to be splitting them up into 2 episodes, so that they'll probably be going up around the same time, but they will be split apart so that it's easier to watch just part of them. It's easier to upload them, because I actually was having problems with them being too large to upload easily. Now, did I see a crossroads? Yes, over this way, and here comes yet another eagle. Those eagles have killed more runs than just about anything else in this game. So I'm starting to have a certain amount of respect for them, and maybe even antipathy. I always talk about difficult is good, and I really still stand by that. But I also am starting to really recognize the value that antipathy has for gamers and in gaming culture, and there's a certain amount of sort of camaraderie and fun in saying, yeah, man, fuck eagles. Eagles are the worst. So, I don't know exactly how I'm going to be approaching that in a way that is true to myself and feels right with the series, but that is something that I am thinking about, and that I definitely want to acknowledge as I go through this series. I want to make this series a little bit more narrative than it has been. I was talking to a friend recently about this channel and about games, and this friend was saying that stories are really essential to how they think about games. And that's really not the case for me. I play a lot of just really mechanically oriented games without much story at all. But I was also thinking about how when I play this game on the bus, which is the main thing that I do on the bus now, when I'm on the bus, I think about what it is that I want to do in sort of terms of what mood I'm in. And I have sort of a mood where I want to read a story, or a mood where I want to see some kind of an adventure, and I have a mood where I want to play like a challenging game. And so I have Brick Crackers, which is the game that I turn to when I really want to play something very mechanics-oriented. And the only reason I haven't really done more with that game is that I lost my ability to record mobile games. I'm not sure exactly what happened. My phone stopped being able to make a reliable connection to my streaming program. And it's kind of unfortunate because the developers of that game actually reached out to me and said that they had added a colorblind mode to one of their other games, which I thought was really cool of them. And I went and played it, and I was going to do a video on it, and that's when I found out that I could no longer record effectively. So that's why that has not happened, and I've kind of felt bad about that. But that's really the game that I turn to when I want to play something really gamey and mechanics-oriented. Now, when I feel like a story, I have a couple of places I can look. I have a comic that I've read a bajillion times and love, and will probably read a bajillion times more. And then I also have a copy of the Mahabharata just lying around that I read occasionally. And so I have those if I want something more story-oriented, and I have Brick Crackers if I want something more mechanics-oriented. But there's this sort of sense of adventure that I get from Hyper Rogue that is somewhere in between a story and a game. And it definitely has aspects of a story in it. And so I want to explore that aspect of Hyper Rogue a little bit better, and look a little bit more at why it feels like it has a dramatic arc to it. And I think that part of that is the emotional tension of things. As you get more and more built up, you get more and more opportunities to do interesting things, you get more and more likely to have a high score, more and more likely to have a win the further on you go, and you've kind of invested more and more energy into a run. And then, as you do that at the same time, you have the game throwing more and more stuff at you, getting more and more difficult, and the things that you have to do to continue to progress in the game get more and more complicated. And so it has this very strong sense of progression that I think is part of what lends it a sense of adventure to me. And I think that another part of it is this sense that we are going out and, going from place to place, seeing and doing things and visiting strange lands and finding new things. And it really has this sense of discovery that I think adds to the sense of adventure. So that's something that I want to explore more in these videos. I definitely want to plan out more thoroughly what it is that I'm going to be doing in these videos. I'm going to be planning out my breaks a little bit better, so I'm probably going to take one pretty soon. I actually want to check how long I have been going. And so probably I'm going to take a break at the 90 treasure mark. And that seems like probably the best place, because the end game tends to last very long. And so getting to the end game is probably about half of it, and then getting through the end game will probably be about half. And it may not be exactly half, but I'll probably be uploading this as 2 separate episodes, more or less at the same time, because it's just the runs are getting too long, and they're getting kind of, I think, a little bit dull, and so I want to freshen it up a little bit and make sure that I am really planning out what it is I'm going to talk about, and making sure that I'm fresh and not getting so worn out that I start talking total gibberish like I did in the episode that probably you didn't see because I didn't upload it because I was really not happy with it. So we have completed the forest, and we are up to 72 gems, which means we also have Relia open to us, and I believe we may actually have some other places available to us, like the Vineyard and the silver mines, though I'm not sure when exactly the silver mines open up. This is unfortunate. This fire fairy is going to make it so that I cannot reach the crossroads there. So we're going to have to go in a different direction and hope that we find a different crossroads. And hope that we can escape this fire, which it seems like we're doing pretty well. I don't want to grab any more of the flowers from this area, but I do want to make sure that I have some open space around me so that I can fight these hedgehog warriors effectively, because most things in this game you fight most effectively in very confined, narrow spaces where they can't get behind you. And in the forest, the hedgehog warriors, you really need open space around them to fight them effectively. And so that's kind of an exception that I really like, and that really changes the way that I play in a meaningful way. And I love the things in this game that do that have that effect. There's another fire fairy coming after me. So I want to kind of clear out a path and then just make my way away from the fire as quickly as I can. And I'm starting to draw a lot of heat, so I would really like to get out of here. Icy land is not ideal, but it is maybe an option that I have if I don't have any other way of escaping. And maybe I'm not even going to make it in there, though I see something else. It looks like a mirrored land. Mirrored land could actually be one of the few places that is more likely to get me killed than the forest. But I don't know, and this fire is coming up very quickly. So I'm thinking it may actually be wise to try and strike out here, and I see a crossroads just across the way. So I'm just going to really try and rush and get out of the mirrored land as fast as possible. So what does that leave for us? We have 72 gems. We have 7 different types. We have the forest clear. We have the Land of Eternal Motion clear, the mirrored land, the alchemy lab, the jungle, the desert, and the icy land. So the next things that we'll be looking to do are... well, now I'm not remembering. The Vineyard, I think? And let's see, we need 9 different types to get the next set of unlocks. So, what is this? This is an Orb of Thorns. Okay, so that lets us... that gives us some more combat options for the next 77 turns. It lets us fight Hedgehog Warriors directly, and it also lets us fight other monsters the way that we would fight the Hedgehog Warriors. Alright, here's a Vineyard. So we can head in here. And so we can do that, and that was actually a mistake, because now I can't go over there. But I don't think it's... Well, now I can't really get into this Vineyard effectively at all, so that was a mistake for sure. Though if I get this Orb of Shielding, that may actually give me enough tempo to get over here and do that. Yes. Alright, so small setback, managed to overcome it. And now we are in the Vineyard, which is another area that tends to get me killed a lot. So I have a hard time finding the gems in this area. And so I want to kind of go a little bit slowly, and these walls everywhere, these vines, make it tricky. Sometimes the vine spirits that let you go through vines are pretty far apart. And so sometimes it's very difficult to get through a vine that you know you need to get through. But because of the geometry, there are always options. Or nearly always. There are other ways of getting around. There are other places that we can go. Even when it seems like we have really been hemmed in from a lot of different directions, there are just so many more directions you can go in this game that it is kind of amazing. So I am looking, and I'm not seeing a direction that looks really promising. That vine beast is going to block my passage this way. So I am actually getting to exactly the kind of situation that I mentioned where I feel like my options have been severely curtailed, but it looks like we can go through one of these vines. And this should let us at least get into a new part of the world. Though now I'm actually seeing some gaps in the vines that make me think that we're not really in a new part of the world. So here's another situation where I just don't see any vine spirits that will let us get through to that wine over there. So this is a lull in the game. I really feel like I'm in a position where I'm very slowly trying to accumulate resources from one of the slowest areas in the game. And so I'm wondering if there's some way that I can get things moving a little faster. And I think going through here into the crossroads may be the best option. So I'm really thinking about the story of this, the adventure of this, and I know that there are lulls in adventures, but I'm thinking maybe there's some aspect to this adventure that I'm not seeing yet. Because it really just feels like I'm going to a lot of places that I'm familiar with and not doing a lot of new stuff. But it looks like we have some opportunities to see some new stuff. I believe there's some stuff that has been added since the last episode in Relia and possibly even in the Crossroads, so we will be looking for those. I figured out I don't remember if it was the last episode or the episode that I decided not to post. I was running into the problem that finding your way between the orbs of Yendor and the key is extraordinarily difficult. And I actually finally figured out how it is that you're supposed to do it. And so that is a new piece of knowledge that I will attempt to use to my advantage, though I can't guarantee that I'm going to make it to that point in the game. I have been getting there more and more consistently, but there is a lot of stuff in this game still that I want to show you that may take time away from that. We will see. Now, I want to watch my score. We're getting pretty close to 90. And I think what I'm going to do is unlock Hell and then take a break, and you will be able to find the next episode in the... you'll find the rest of it in the next episode, and it should already be up or be going up very soon. So this is one of the new areas that I can't remember if I don't believe I've covered yet, that basically it's these infinitely nested circles, and you can only grab one treasure from each circle, and then you have to go deeper. And it has this really neat effect of constantly going deeper and deeper. It almost feels like the dungeons of a more traditional roguelike or a tower. Has this very progressive feel, and then getting out of it feels very much like the sort of the grab and escape stories that you get in a lot of... Now, did I grab the treasure for this level? I did. Okay. This area feels a lot like the stories that you get in games like NetHack of go to the bottom and then grab the treasure and then get back out. And I really like that is kind of inserted into this game in that way. And this area is pretty daunting because you get these tentacles, and then you have the cultists and the cult leaders, and you have these statues that you can move around to block the cultists and the tentacles. But the cult leaders will go right through them. And the cultists will throw fire at you, like that. And so this is a really dangerous area. And I'm having trouble getting down to the next level of it. But there we are. We only need one more. And that will get us everything that we need from this area. We could continue even further down. I don't think this has a bottom. There certainly isn't any one that I could find. So now what I want to do is make my way back out. And there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at us, trying to prevent us from escaping the Temple of Cthulhu. There's going to be even more tentacles and even more cult leaders. So we have 94 gems. Does that mean that we have 10 in every slot, though? I'm not certain yet. And I'm not... Let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. We do not have 10 in every slot, so looks like we need... Probably the fastest way is 3 statues of Cthulhu. And then we will be taking our break. So these statues make it easier to escape, but as I mentioned, the cult leaders do not care about the statues. And it does not slow them down at all, but you can use it to slow down the tentacles, and it's very useful for that. Now, we should be finding orbs in these areas soon. I believe once you get 10 gems from each area that you get the orb for that area. And there are some pretty neat orbs. I'm a little surprised we haven't made it to the top yet. Here we are. This is always... 10 levels is always deeper than it feels like it should be. So now we just need 3 more statues, and that will unlock Hell. And 1 more. There we go. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the episode so far. If you have, then please join me in the next episode where we will be continuing this run. And if you haven't, well, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.